what's going on, everybody? My name is Adin Kuskovic, and today I am talking about a very important topic, and that is disaster loan assistance from the Small Business Administration. So I've been getting a lot of inquiries about what this program is about, how to apply, what the requirements are, and how to maneuver the whole process. And so for today, what I thought I'd do is one, introduce the program, and then two, actually get on my computer, go to the SBA's website, do a screen recording of the actual process, and where you need to go, what you need to do if you're going to do this yourself, and then I'll walk you through the forms that are going to be required and the different documentation that is needed in order to, one, submit your application, and then two, hopefully get a loan, and then talk a little bit about the implications of the loan and how they're working. What they're meant to be is essentially long-term loans up to 30 years. Your exact term, the length of your loan, is going to depend on a number of factors, but it can be as long as 30 years. And the interest rate is set at 3.75%. So that is a phenomenal interest rate for small businesses, especially if you have equipment, obviously if you have payroll, if you have fixed assets or fixed debt that you need to repay. If you're currently working with a commercial lender, those rates are usually in the 8 to 12 range. And so getting your loan down from 8, 10, 12% down to 3.75 can mean wonders for your cash flow. So again, it can help people generally who are dependent on equipment, vehicles, machinery, obviously payroll, folks in the restaurant industry who, again, also have a lot of equipment. And a lot of times that equipment is either leased or bought through a loan. If you can get that refinanced at 3.75%, it will free up a lot more cash flow. And the whole idea being obviously to re-stimulate the economy once we're done with all of this, and make it easier to reopen, make it easier to rehire, and get folks back into a normal groove of things. So again, there is some restrictions on who is eligible. We'll talk about that. Again, I'll talk about the documentation and the overall process. Now, in terms of this video, I might break it down into a couple of smaller ones, but more than likely it's going to be a little bit longer than what I usually do. But again, packed with phenomenal content on the SBA loans, how to get through it, and make sure that you get some low interest rate financing for your business so that you can continue to, one, operate, stay in business is number one, and number two, again, thrive. Make sure that you have the cash flow to get through this, and then on the back end, obviously, grow, hire more people, and become more successful.
All right, so now we're in front of the computer, and obviously I'm gonna make this big circle with my face on it a little bit smaller. I guess it blends in with some of these other circles here on this website. I could be one down here. All joking aside, so we're on the SBA's disaster loan website right here. So what I'm gonna do is point out a couple of things to get you to the right place. The first one is we want to make sure that we got the website right. disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA. So this is the one that is not related. This is the one for the businesses and business owners, because most disaster loans are for natural disasters, hurricanes, and things of that nature. That wipe out business assets and make it impossible to continue. But this one right here, again, the ELA is for the current situation that we're in. And when you land on this website, they'll basically have 3 bubbles to choose from. The first one is eligible disaster area. So I think I mentioned your state governor would have had to request for the state to be declared a eligible disaster area. And in North Carolina, we received that a week ago, Thursday, March 19th. And so any small business in North Carolina is now eligible to apply. So the blue button, which we'll go to next, is the application link, and they actually updated this yesterday. You used to have to set up a login and go in there and start your application, start filling some stuff out. But as of yesterday, they have revamped this website, and they basically make you fill out all the documentation on the front end, and then it's a single upload into the website here, into the portal. And again, with they're getting so many requests that they're trying to filter it to the point that you have all your documentation ready, and then you apply rather than starting a piece and stopping, then coming back, because it just slows everything down. And then after you're done applying, you can also check your application status. Right now, I think the turnaround time is 2 to 3 weeks, but I know they've also talked about streamlining some stuff where hopefully it's going to be a lot quicker. And so this is why it's super important to get on here and fill out your application as soon as possible so that you have your things in and you can get a determination as soon as possible. All right, so once we click apply online, it'll take us to this page right here. And this page essentially is the information site, call it a landing page if you want, where it'll tell you all the info about what it is, working capital loans up to $2 million. And then it has all the different forms down here. So I'm gonna pause right here and then come back and go through the different forms and what they look like. So hopefully the first thing you see from this site right here is that the forms, there's a number of forms that have to be filled in. And if you're paying attention to my screen, you'll see all these tabs up here. So I've already opened up all of these forms that need to be completed in order to submit your application. And the first one is a traditional loan app. There's also, so this is important right here in this middle section. I'll show you the difference between the forms. There's a business loan app, and then there's a home or sole proprietor loan app. So if you are a Schedule C tax filer, a sole proprietor, you're still eligible for this loan. The application is just different. So you got to make sure you're paying attention here and selecting the right application. And then there's also, for this instance, the economic injury disaster loan supporting information. So this is additional information that they want us to fill out in order to apply. And then down here, these are additional forms. It says a loan officer may request you to fill out the following additional forms. The way things are going, you will almost certainly have to fill out these additional forms, especially what they're after is, let me see here. The second one right here, a personal financial statement and request for transcript of tax returns. This is going to be one of those things that a lot of people will have to file and submit in order for them to have proof that, one, you're filing your tax returns, and two, what your income has been and what your other assets are. So if you're asking and requesting a whole lot of money, they're going to want to make sure that you don't have other means to support your business and pay your current bills before they give you assistance as well. So again, just keep in mind that these additional forms may be necessary. In most cases, they will be. And you're better off starting to fill these out on top of the actual loan application. just to be ahead of it. If you want to go ahead and submit just the loan app and the supporting info up here, that's fine. But my recommendation is to go ahead and fill out all these other forms as well. You don't have to submit them right away, but have them ready. So if somebody emails you or the SBA sends you a letter and says, hey, we're in the process of reviewing your notes and we need 1, 2, and 3, you already have them ready. Obviously, it takes a whole lot more time to fill them out. And then once you're done with all of it, you're basically going to upload all your documents in here. So what we see is the SBA uses Box. Interesting. All right. So again, I'm going to pause right here, give me a snack, and then get back to showing you the actual forms, what they look like, and what you need to gather in terms of documents. Okay, so I had my Pringles fueled up, ready to go through this application. Probably should have grabbed me a drink as well because these things are tedious. So obviously a lot of different forms to fill out, different fields to fill out. It's super important with these sorts of things to actually read what you're doing. So obviously here, this top section, it says for SBA internal use only. So we can skip the first section. And then we get into the second piece. It's question number 1, are you applying for? And what we all are looking to do, what this video is all about, is this option right here. Economic injury, EIDL. Okay, so this is the small business economic injury loan option. That's what we want. And then I do want to also point out that you can mail this your complete application. You can also fax, and I think there's an email somewhere as well. Obviously, the most secure way and the quickest way is going to be that upload that I showed you just a second ago. And then you got to go down here, and now it's going to ask about information about your business. Again, this isn't a personal loan. You cannot apply for this as an individual. It is for your company. So you need to have your business information ready. How are you organized? How do you get taxed? Name, address, tax ID number, phone number, all the basic things that you should have anyway. Make sure that you have them ready before you start this process. Otherwise, you're going to be going back and forth on a lot of this. So again, up here, select the right entity, business legal name, tax ID number, and then mailing address, damaged property. Now, again, up here, we're not talking about a physical damage loan. We're talking about economic injury. So be careful with reading. You don't have damaged property, so there's no damaged property address. And then you got to list some individuals, and you're probably best off to include, if your phone number appears on your telephone number, you might want to include your cell or your email. And if you're using a third party to help you with this process, it might be helpful to have their information listed as well so that they get contacted to be able to respond to any additional inquiries. And again, this is all about your business. You should know all of this. If you don't, do seek assistance from somebody to help you fill all of this stuff out. And on page 2 of 5, it now goes into asking about the owners. So here, my understanding is if a person owns 20% or more of the business, it's not my understanding. It's actually right here in black and white. So up here, owners, you have to complete this section for each person who owns 20% or more interest of the business. And what this is, I think, going to come back through and request is on the list of documents I showed you, the personal financial statement. I think anybody who owns 20% or more is going to have to submit their personal financial documents. Not all your documents, but a statement indicating your personal assets, liabilities, and income. And so down here again, there's a bunch of yes or no questions. Is there any joint applicants? So this is if there is additional people who own 20% or more. And then if somebody did assist you in completing the application, obviously their information needs to be on here. And they also want to know what the fee that person charged you to fill out the application. And you got to sign, title, date. And then pages 3 through 5 are actually instructions. And again, here, filing requirements. You do have to give them tax information authorizations that they can pull your tax transcript and your business federal income tax returns. And okay, so here it is. So it looks like they are telling us conflicting information on the website itself. It's saying that these 3 forms up here, well, 1 or 2, depending on how you're organized, number 3 are required, and then these may be requested, but in the actual application, it's telling us it is requested. So when you go through this list, fill all of them out in order to submit your application. And so again, read instructions to know what you're doing. If you don't want to read, hire somebody to do this for you. This one is an easier version for sole proprietors. Again, top section we're not going to mess with. Are you applying for? Again, sole proprietor economic hardship. And then a lot of your basic information is going to go in here. And then for sole proprietors, it's a little bit simpler because from a legal perspective, the sole proprietor and the business are essentially one and the same. So they want to know your personal financial information right here. And you're still going to have to fill out the other form. Actually, you might not. I haven't read these instructions in full for the sole proprietor. So no. So here you may be required to supply the following. So they could ask you for additional information on your income expenses, your jobs, and stuff like that. So again, read the instructions in full for what you're filling out and submit the information that is needed in order to get funded the quickest. Again, I'm going to stop right here and then go on into the next couple of documents that are required and walk you through those. Okay, we are now on the supporting statement for these economic injury disaster loans. And one thing I just wanted to point out is that up here, sentence number 2 says for expedited loan processing, the business must have been operated for at least 1 year. The way I'm understanding this is you don't have to have been in operation for a full year, but if you're open for less than 1 year, I think there's going to be some bigger due diligence going on for a number of reasons. First, fraud. There's probably going to be folks out there who are opening businesses during this time in anticipation of these loans so that they can leverage this very cheap funding for their operations. Secondly, part of this whole application process is it is a loan. So the SBA will want to review your financials to make sure that you're going to be able to repay these loans. So companies that have been around for more than a year obviously have a better chance of staying in business and being able to repay this. So I don't read this to mean that if you've been operating for less than 1 year that you're not eligible. It just means that they're going to do a little bit more research on your financials. So you check yes or no, and then you got to put in your revenues, cost of goods sold. The interesting thing here is if you have a rental business, and most people who have 1 or 2 rental properties, they're not really a rental business. The mortgage companies are already deferring payments. So here for rental properties, it generally means if you have numerous properties where You also have somebody on payroll to manage them, or you have equipment and things of that nature where you ended up losing rental income because there was a disaster. And again, this is when it says lost rents due to the disaster. This is much more geared towards natural disasters such as hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes than it is what we're dealing with right now. And then compensation from other sources. So if your insurance company were to reimburse you for something, so think about restaurants and they have food spoilage. Your insurance usually will reimburse you for food spoilage due to disasters like what we got going on right now. So if you're getting reimbursed, you got to account for that money coming in first before it's going to count as a need towards this loan. And then, of course, you're going to sign and date. And now let's move on into the personal financial statement, which I think is going to be the most complex form here, in addition to the actual loan app that we first saw, because this is all about your personal finances. And again, read up here what the instructions say about who has to provide what information. And generally it's, any sole proprietor, general partner, managing member, and people who own 20% or more of the equity. And there's family attribution rules. So if you're married and your spouse owns a piece, you got to combine everybody's equity stake to determine this 20% piece. And so now you're going to start filling in all the basic info. And then down here, this is essentially your personal balance sheet. You should do this anyway for financial planning purposes and estate planning purposes, but now you're going to have to do it for loan purposes. So in round dollar amounts, amid cents, you're going to put in all your assets that you have, including retirement accounts, including life insurance, real estate, vehicles, any other personal property that you think is worthwhile. And then on the flip side, we're going to go through liabilities first. So personal payables, personal notes and loans, car payments. If you took out a loan against your life insurance, mortgages, unpaid taxes. So you're trying to figure out your net worth here. And then, of course, at the bottom, income and expenses. So salary, investments, real estate, other. So if you got any other sources of income, and then any sort of liabilities that you have. And again, this requires a little bit more information from you, and generally will require some document digging to figure out what all of that is. And if you put anything here in other income, you also gotta put down here what it is and where that money is coming from. And then you got to give details of your notes and whatnot. And it says use attachments if necessary. And each attachment must be identified. So, and then stocks and bonds, same kind of deal. Real estate, all of this stuff is a lot of details. And that's why, this is not something that you breeze through in 15 minutes. This is going to take you a good bit of time to gather your documents, and then also to go through, read the instructions, and then fill out the form, package it together, and get it submitted. So again, this is why a lot of people are outsourcing this to either a banker or accountants. I've talked to several other accountants who are doing this for their clients. I'm doing it for my clients. I am charging for it because it is a whole lot of time. And then again, on the back end, if there's more communication with the SBA, and I don't know if they're going to allow any sort of negotiation where if they say, hey, you're approved for $5,000, I am pretty sure we're going to be able to go back to them and say, hey, great, thanks. How about we do 8? We really need to make payroll this week. We really need to due X, Y, and Z. All of these other loans are coming due. So I think that's where a third party is going to be beneficial for a lot of folks, but to each their own. And then here's what's a 4506T. If you've ever gotten a mortgage, your mortgage lender made you do one of these as well. Now, they didn't do a great job explaining who or for what this needs to be. You should fill out a 4506T for the business if the business files a separate tax return, as well as for yourself, and if you're married, for you and your spouse. So again, if you just do one of them, if you do just the business, be prepared for them to ask for this as well for you personally. If you feel like you don't want to submit it on the front end, don't, but have it handy so that if they do come and ask, it's all ready to go, can be uploaded, and gets you processed a lot quicker. And again, they're at this point, they're requesting 2018 and 2017 returns to see what's going on with your business taxes and ultimately your personal taxes. And then in terms of on the personal financial statement, it asked about liabilities. So this is the suggested format for how they want you to show your liabilities. And it's essentially an Excel spreadsheet, name of creditor, all this normal information. Again, they're trying to figure out cash flow to include with your application. And based on all of this, they're going to be able to say, okay, this is how much of a loan you can get with this term to help you, again, qualify for as much as possible. And I think this is, again, another place where an advisor is going to come handy in terms of talking to them about being able to rearrange cash flow to allow you to get the most out of this program. So this is another one. And then this is the last form. And what they want, again, for businesses is monthly sales figures. So they want to see which month, which year, and or again, provide monthly sales figures beginning 3 years prior to the disaster. So again, a lot of this is information you probably have. It might not be readily available to you. It might be your bookkeeper or your accountant that's keeping this information. They probably send you statements regularly. But again, this is going to require pulling a lot of data and then compiling it in the format that they want in order to get it submitted. What I've done is I've actually taken all of these applications and put them into a spreadsheet format with different tabs so that it's easy for us to compile the data and pull them from the different sources that we use in order to be able to get it all done as quickly as possible, get it submitted, and hopefully get a result sooner rather than later so we can stay in business, so that we can keep operating and get through all of this. So in a nutshell, that is the whole process here for applying for the SBA disaster loan. It's taken me, 45 minutes to kind of go over the program, go over the different forms that got to be filled out. So if it takes 45 minutes to just go through it, be prepared to spend some time to actually fill it out and apply for the loan, as it is going to take some effort. It's not a 15-minute thing. It's not a, hey, accountant, you already have all my information. They may have it, but they still have to put it all together, answer the questions correctly. So just be mindful of that and be, as far as your communication, be ready to respond to them and their requests, particularly on your personal financials, because most accountants that work with business owners on the business side, they'll have a lot of that info, but your personal stuff, they'll do your personal taxes, but they don't know all your assets and liabilities and other income. So make sure that you're communicating openly and are able to provide whoever does this with complete information. So good luck to you. Get going on this. Don't wait too long. You don't want them to run out of money or close down the program. Again, I think it's a great opportunity to weather the storm here, reflect on how you're operating your business, and then come out stronger from this so that in the future, you're not going to be impacted by any sort of shocks like we're experiencing right now. All righty. And as always, stay healthy.